Hello, everyone. Welcome to DeProgram with me, Ted Rall, and John Kiriakou, who's having a few technical glitches trying to get on. And as soon as I see him pop onto the screen, I'm going to add him here. Before he does that, just a little bit of business upkeep here. The DeProgram show, it doesn't have yet a regular scheduled, we're here basically whenever we can. Let's see, John's saying something. Okay, John's saying he's going to have to switch devices. So bear with us. John's going to be here any second here. In the meantime, I'm going to pimp my new book. It's called What's Left? Never mind the Democrats. Here's What's Left. Publication day is May 1st, International Workers' Day. And basically, this book is a brain exercise. It's a list of demands that the left should be pushing for. And if you're wondering, like, hey, have I heard about something like that from, say, a political party or a political candidate? Have I heard something like that from like AOC and Bernie Sanders on their Fight Oligarchy tour? The answer is no, you haven't. And that's why I think someone needs to do it. Start the conversation. That, basically you can't skip straight to an organized political party or a mass movement unless you have some sort of unified set of ideas that you all organize around. Otherwise, it's just not going to work, right? So what I did here is just to give you a sense, if you're watching here on X or YouTube or even on Rumble. I don't know how many people watch the show on Rumble. This is kind of what the show it looks like. It's 190 pages. It's very wonky. And what I've basically done is taken a stab at the current U.S. federal budget, which of course is very heavily skewed toward so-called defense spending. And what I've done is I've basically reallocated the funding so that it goes to sources that are a little more people-oriented, right? So, for example, I bet you didn't know that we could get rid of, financially, we could get rid of the entire homelessness problem in the United States just like that, overnight. No problem, no muss, no fuss. Bet you didn't know that we could easily afford, well, you might know if you're watching here, that we can easily afford Medicare for all. We can easily afford free college tuition. It's a matter of social, economic, and political priorities. And so what I'm asking you to do is on May 1st, you can go on Amazon or any other online bookseller and get the book. In the meantime, it's already in the system. It's in the Ingram's distribution system. So if you go to a local bookstore, independent or otherwise, Barnes & Noble, doesn't matter. I don't really care where you go, although I always support independent bookstores, and they've always been good to me. But so is Barnes & Noble. Anyway, you can go and order the book, and it'll come in just a couple days after May 1st, maybe even on May 1st if you get your order in now. I'll be selling them through my website too, and selling signed copies that way. But there's going to be a premium on those because I have to pay for the shipping and handling. So that's you can watch my website for that, rall.com. And perfectly on at the right time to give me enough time to my book, John Kiriakou is here. Let me add him into the screen here. There he is.
Hey, folks.
Hey, John.
I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. My desktop is still trying to get onto Chrome, so had to go to the trusty laptop.
Yeah, so I always have to. Yeah, I find that it's weird. Sometimes Chrome works better. Like for StreamYard, which we're using to broadcast this, Chrome works better. I can't use Firefox.
Right.
I've always been kind of a Firefox person, but then if I want to stream video, if I want to watch Netflix, I find that I need Safari usually to make that work.
Of all things,
technology is evil. So how are you doing, John? New haircut?
No. I got on a roll writing this book, and I was writing until 3:30 in the morning, and I forgot that I was supposed to do an appearance on Jamarl Thomas's show at.
Oh God, I forgot about JT a couple of last week. I felt terrible about it.
Yeah, I felt terrible too, and And so I only slept 3.5 hours, 3 hours, and I had to take a little nap. So I have a little bit of bedhead. Sorry about that.
Good. Yeah, it's like I had it's funny. I've had that thing where I get a call for an interview and it wakes me up, right? Like at 5:30 in the morning because it's God knows where. And It's like, and so then I'm like, and like my son has remarked upon my amazing ability to just start talking about anything. They're like, "Hey, Ted, we're
just
on
like
the air. Your mic's hot in 45 seconds. You ready?" I'm like,
Man,
"Oh yeah,
I'm
good."
More than once.
Wake me up out of a sound sleep and I can talk about geopolitics, or at least pretend to.
I'm the same way. But I was up early so that I could do Jamarl. We had a good conversation on Iran, and then I was awake enough to read the Washington Post. And so I'm not completely stupid today.
Well, although I was going to say the Washington Post might not be a net plus for your IQ, but
no.
I have such a love-hate relationship with big media outlets like that. Yeah. I mean, they're essential, but they, you can just see through the lies.
Yeah.
So like, speaking of which, right, there's a lot of lies and a lot of spin. A friend of mine recently remarked just how incredible, how amazingly brainwashed the American public has been.
Oh, it is incredible
about Ukraine, right? I mean, no other. I mean, they just don't. I mean, it's sort of like we're just all in unquestioningly. We're not going to, try to assess whether, the government is worth supporting or not. We're not going to, we're going to misrepresent basically what happened here in terms of, especially, the history of the civil conflict in the Donbass, which basically is not mentioned at all.
Right.
And it is complicated and it's very nuanced. And basically it's just like, so now we have with Trump's peace plan, as he calls it, on the table, we're, having a whole revisit like of, this is outrageous from supporters of Ukraine. Like, he wants Ukraine to give up everything and for the Russians to give up nothing or very little, which is kind of true, but there's a context here, right? I mean, in the Washington Post, I was just reading over lunch, I had a shawarma before I came on here. And, and I was amazed because it's like in the same breath, they're saying, well, there's some experts in the same paper who say, well, if, this is kind of advantageous to Ukraine in that if the war continues, they're likely to lose more territory. And then they quote another expert, a Ukrainian expert, who says, this is a sop to Russia. They weren't going to win. They were bogged down, which is really not, I think, what was happening, on the ground.
Agreed.
And so, it's just the spin is amazing. And basically, for people who've been living under a rock, what Trump has put on the table is that basically it becomes a frozen conflict zone. The line of control remains pretty much where it is, with little nips and tucks here and there. Ukraine doesn't join NATO. De facto control of most of the Donbass remains in Russian hands. Crimea is formally acknowledged as Russian, but by the U.S., not by Ukraine. Zelensky muddied the waters by saying that Ukraine will never agree to acknowledging Crimea as Russian territory, but nobody asked him. Nobody asked you to. That's, it's not required. And so, so now it seems Trump has now said, we have a deal with Russia. It looks like Russia has agreed, which, by the way, is the smart move, right? It's in, I mean, I don't know if I assume you've been through marriage counseling. And I remember, and when I went through marriage counseling with 4 separate therapists, each time I came off, and I wasn't trying to work the system, I was trying to actually fix my marriage. But like, I was always like, well, Ted's reasonable, she's not. And it's kind of like, and sometimes it was like literally like, well, maybe Ted, you don't need to come next week. Maybe I'll just work with her one-on-one. Right now, that's like Russia's playing the Ted role here. Russia's like, okay, I mean, of course, a cynic will say, well, that's because it's a great deal for Russia. But there are things that Russia doesn't like about it.
Sure.
Like it leaves Zelensky in charge and
yes,
stuff like that.
right.
And then Zelensky is looking petulant. But on
Very
the other
much so.
he has domestic concerns, right? I mean, from the New York Times had a piece that I actually found pretty credible that said he can't basically stop fighting for Crimea. He needs to be like, we need Crimea back. And Trump's like, but I don't understand. Like, that was a bloodless takeover.
Right.
Nothing happened. You and your predecessors didn't lift a finger to try to get it back. So that's gone, right? It's like, it's a little bird.
And they only had Crimea since the 1950s. It was a gift from Khrushchev to the Ukrainian SSR.
Right. Like the analogy that I made was like, imagine if Staten Island, which is in New York City, let's just say the governor of New York decided to gift it to New Jersey, just to say like, hey, we like New Jersey. We're just trying to get our bonds together. And, so Staten Island goes to New Jersey. And then the US breaks up. We have 50 different countries instead of 50 states. And then suddenly finds itself in New Jersey. And they're like, but culturally, we were always New York. And like, we're New Yorkers. And we belong with New York. And then New York invades and basically are welcomed as liberators. And that's it. I mean, I know it's not the 100% of the population is not ethnically Russian in Crimea. It's like more like 60, but there's Tatars, there's other ethnic minorities, some ethnic Ukrainians, of course. So but it just seems like that context. It's like Crimea should. I mean, if Khrushchev came back, he would not. If he knew what was going to happen, he would not have done that, right? I mean, he did this. It was one country. It didn't matter then.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So it was like this dumb symbolic move.
Ted, what about this provision that has nothing to do with conflict? The provision is to give the United States Ukraine's minerals.
Right. Yeah. And funny, that's the part that Zelensky should be bitching about.
You can say that again.
That's gross. I mean, it's really disgusting. And, I'm on Team Ukraine, Slava Ukraini for that. I mean,
me too.
They should tell the U.S. to go fuck itself. I mean, it's just disgusting. I mean, certainly, I think the most that they could agree that if I were the Ukrainians, I would say, look, to express our gratitude for your support over these past 3 years, we'll let you have right of first refusal. Like we'll invite you in for your rights first. Mm-hmm. But if someone now bids you, oh, well, we'll take that.
That's right. It goes to them. Yeah, it's theft. Yeah, there was an interesting piece I saw somewhere, Politico maybe, The Hill, I don't remember. But the head of NATO, former Dutch Prime Minister Rutte, was in town the other day. And in the photo op session, where it's just he and Trump sitting in the wingback chairs, where they're supposed to be talking about the weather or the World Cup, Trump starts talking about the necessity to annex Canada. And Rutte's just sitting there, motionless, speechless. And he's saying, Canada only works as a state. It doesn't work as a country. There aren't enough people. They need to just be a state. Then we can really make some business. And then when
it's worked as a country for
250 years.
Forever. Yeah. As longer than we have.
It doesn't work as a country, he said. And then he went on to say that he's taking Greenland. That's just going to be the bottom line. He's taking Greenland because we need it for international security. Now, he didn't explain what in the world that meant. We need Greenland for international security. And Rutte just sat there and stared at the camera. Crazy.
Yeah, and it's weird because nobody even can sort of, I'll give this to Zelensky, right? Like when he had that showdown at the Oval Office, he talked back. He's sassy.
Yeah,
and,
he did.
And I think it's not rude. if for two world leaders to disagree about something and to have that out in front of the cameras, and for one to say, look, you know, I respect the American president. We're close allies. However, we have a different view here. We respect the sovereignty of Canada and the Danish territory of Greenland. I mean, why not just say that?
Yeah, why not just say that? Exactly.
Silence is complicity in this context, I feel.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, exactly. So only if Ukraine decides to lick its wounds and look toward EU membership,
right,
can they really recover from this?
They've been offered some vague sense of someone's going to pay for reconstruction. The plan doesn't say who.
Right. That's a good point. It should be Russia. The Ukrainians need to get something other than just get screwed and have their minerals stolen from them.
True. I mean, yeah. Well, if it's not Russia, it should be the United States, because the United States Biden did say to the Russians, don't worry, we got your back, you know, go all in, fuck the Russians. And then it's like, oh.
Yeah, we changed our mind.
Yeah. It's like when my father signed a divorce decree that promised to send me to the college that I was admitted to. Sadly for him, I was admitted to a few Ivy League schools that were really expensive. So he had his second wife write me a letter that said, things change with passing time. That's what the United States, that's like their song, that, you know, things change with passing time. Sorry, Mr. Gaddafi. Sorry, Mr. Hussein. So things changed for Mr. Zelensky. If I'm the Ukrainians, I take this deal. I try to get, you know, I don't accept, you know, I accept de facto, but not de jure, that, like, the loss of the Donbass and the Crimea.
Yeah.
You know, and I start rebuilding. And if I'm Zelensky, exit strategy, you know, call new elections. Like, the country needs to move on past its wartime leader.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I said this morning on Jamal's show that my guess is 6 months from now, Zelensky's going to be living in London.
Mm-hmm.
And this will all be over.
Or southern France.
Yeah, or southern France. Correct. In fact, Macron invited him.
He has a place in Italy, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Although, knowing the Italians, I wouldn't really trust their security. So
no, I have to agree.
The French have better security.
Yeah, the French do have better security. They learned their lesson from every Iranian leader being assassinated there in 1980 and 81.
Yeah. I mean, and Zelensky's going to need security, and it's not going to be from the Russians. It's going to be from other Ukrainians who are going to view him as a traitor.
Yeah, but he gave up.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the Ukrainians, because they've had, and this is analogous to the situation in Israel and Palestine. I mean, in both cases, you have a population who have been fed, you know, a party line, and they haven't been exposed to any other points of view, right? Like, all opposition radio and television channels are blocked in Ukraine. You know, they've been taken over so that you have the same thing, state television, on all the cable news stations. You know, as you move, it's the same thing. And it's sort of like the way you used to be driving across country listening to AM radio, and you'd go from one Rush Limbaugh station to another. And that's what it's like there. So I think, you know, a lot of Ukrainians don't have a very realistic or fully fleshed out view of their prospects in this war, and like how it would have been likely to go. But I don't think you have to be a genius to see, all right, listen, this has been a grinding war of attrition for 3 years. And, you know, there's not going to be a lot of movement, and we're never seeing Crimea again. And, you know, probably not the Donbass either.
I have to agree. I think that's exactly where we're headed.
So, and of course, obviously, also interesting to the U.S., and I want to dig into this with you, is The U.S. wants to have normalized relations with Russia, abolish all sanctions going back to 2014, which is a great idea. I mean,
great idea.
I'm against sanctions.
Great idea. Yeah.
All sanctions everywhere should just go away.
I agree.
North Korea, Iran, etc.
Iran, Venezuela. Yeah.
They're stupid. They don't work, and they're just cruel. And they, and then obviously, I would say that like the way this looks to me is Trump's attitude to Ukraine is like, listen, take this pretty much as is, or we walk, and you can go suck up to the Brits, the frogs, and the Germans, and like, and if they want to step up and fight your war for you, good luck, but we're out, and I'm still going to hang out with the Russians and do business there and normalize relations and have Trump Tower, St. Petersburg, either way, right? I think that's Trump's view here, and frankly, I really dislike Donald Trump in many respects in his policies, and his deportation policy is disgusting. But on Ukraine, I think he's got it exactly right.
I have to agree. I think he does have it right on Ukraine, and he wants a quick end to this. I've said a million times, there's somebody to whom I'm close who visits Iran regularly, once or twice a year. And she tells me that the Iranians lack for nothing, because whatever they can't get from the West, they get from the Russians, the Chinese, or the Indians. And on the off chance that the Russians, Chinese, and Indians don't have something that they need, like, let's say, a spare part for the oil industry, they manufacture it themselves. And so American sanctions have been a failure. If the point of the sanctions is to change a country's behavior, then the sanctions have failed. There's no reason at all for anybody to think that sanctions against Russia are going to succeed. So I think we're ready for an end to this thing. Did we lose you, Ted? Oh, we may have lost Ted. There you are.
I think I'm coming back here.
There you go.
Maybe. There. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I'm having my own little tech issues here with my Wi-Fi. God. Anyway. All right. So let's move on a little bit. I think we agreed this deal is probably going to become reality, right? I mean,
yeah, I think so.
I don't know what the French, and I don't know what they're on about. I don't know what they think they're doing. I mean, they're not. I mean, there is no. They're not going to do this. They're not going to step in and fight for Ukraine.
And neither will the Germans.
They can't fill the gap.
That's right.
No. So what? I mean, is this just domestic posturing? Really,
it has to be. What? It has to be tough talk for domestic consumption, because you're right. There's no way the French are going to unilaterally send troops to save the Ukrainians from the Russian bear. The Germans, for all their tough talk, are not going to send troops to save the Ukrainians, and nobody else cares.
Yeah, that's the size of it, right? So, I guess, look, we've got to view this as good news. A ceasefire is going to go into effect probably very quickly, soon. Putin seems to have taken a page from American policies of bombing a lot in preparation to soften up your negotiating partner. I personally would have advised him not to do that. I always think it just makes your opponent even angrier and makes things harder.
Yes,
it's better to ramp things down and bring down the temperature, cool things off. But
yeah,
but anyway,
I have to agree. Killing civilians is not cool in the run up to peace talks. Shouldn't do that.
I mean, although it worked out for Henry Kissinger in 1972.
It did. And he won the Nobel Peace Prize too, on top of it.
Right. That is exactly right. So let's talk about defense. This seems to be today. Pete, the Department, the Secretary of Defense, the hits keep on coming. So there was one signal group, then there was a second signal group, and now it's the personal laptop also.
And it's, to make matters worse, on the surface of things, installing Signal, which is an unclassified app on a classified system, is a major security violation, to the point where anybody underneath the Secretary of Defense would be fired, would lose his or her security clearance, and might possibly be looking at prosecution, depending on who happened to be president. What Hegseth now is accused of doing is not just loading Signal onto his DoD desktop, but he also loaded it onto his DoD laptop, corrupting the system and giving him the ability to not just discuss classified information in an unclassified venue, but to cut and paste classified discussions or classified documents onto Signal, an unclassified venue. And third, we learned over the last day or two that this new Signal group that he apparently has been sharing classified information with included his best friend and his lawyer, although both of them are DoD appointees now, but also his wife, who is not cleared for anything. And we've learned that she sits in on every one of his classified meetings. Now, he argued, I saw this on Fox, he argued that, well, she applied for a security clearance and it's pending. It's like, sorry, buddy, not good enough. What you're saying is you're admitting that she doesn't have a security clearance. Well, that's a violation of the Espionage Act. Remember, it's providing national defense information to any person not entitled to receive it. That's her. But now, again,
given your personal history with the Espionage Act, I mean, does your blood boil at like
every time?
Law for thee, but not for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Trump's U.S. attorney for the state of Utah said, these were his words, the Kiriakou case was the template for the Democratic Party's policy of lawfare. And he's right. Now, if everybody is equal under the law, then Pete Hegseth should be charged with multiple counts of espionage. He won't be. Nobody will be who's involved in this story, whether it was, round one or now round two. But yeah, it makes my blood boil when I read these articles and I know that people are going to get away with it. I hate it.
The hypocrisy is just so. I mean, okay. I mean, I have to ask this. I mean, obviously, when Pete Hegseth got that job, he was briefed about security protocols. Yeah. I mean, right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so, okay, I'm just going to ask you. So what the fuck is wrong with him? Is he fucking stupid? Or does he just think he can do, or does he just think he can do whatever the fuck he wants?
Yeah, I think he knows that he can get away with it. One of our viewers is reminding us that in his testimony, he said that Signal came pre-installed on his devices. No, it didn't.
Right.
It's a commercial app. It doesn't come pre-installed on anything. So what is that? Is that perjury? I guess it's perjury if he were sworn in. It's making a false statement if he weren't. But man, it just gets worse and worse and worse, and nobody in a position of authority seems to care.
He's just a lying sack of shit. And I mean, and it's just like, and the thing is, it's like, that's a thing that's so remarkable about so many people in this administration. I mean, Democrats did it too, but then sort of like, I mean, I'll never forget Karine Jean-Pierre talking about how, Joe Biden, the human tornado, it was hard to keep up with him as he flew through the White House ripping through at top speed, knocking things over. He was in such a, no one could keep up with him. So, I mean, but basically it's that thing where they lie to you and they insult your intelligence because they're lying and they know, and that's part of the game. Hannah Arendt wrote about that in The Origins of Totalitarianism. And she said that, the Nazis used to do the same thing. And that's
Sure.
part of the game, is to like, oh, we know that we're going to lie to you, and you're going to know, and there's nothing you can do. And that's kind of one of our ways of big dogging you.
Yes, absolutely right. You know, Ron Ziegler, who was Richard Nixon's press secretary, actually apologized on his deathbed for lying to the American people all through the Watergate case. But that's their job. Their job is to lie.
To Ziegler was a verb in the American Heritage
Yes,
Dictionary.
it became a verb.
For a number of years.
Yes. Yeah. To Ziegler,
I think they took it out because people just forgot who he was.
Forgot. Yeah. I think that's right.
It's like, oh my God. So I mean, all right. So I look at the calendar. It's now months into the administration. The first 100 days is coming up. There's a weekend coming, and you and I both know what happens over weekends. You know, at all companies, you get laid off on a Friday. You can have a normal end, and nobody needs Pete Hegseth to come into the Pentagon and go postal. So, not to mention you can have a media dump, news dump on a Friday, and it hits the Saturday news, and by Monday morning, maybe people aren't as energized and interested in the story. It's the way of Washington. If you're Pete Hegseth, are you nervous this weekend?
No. If I'm Pete Hegseth, I know that the boss has my back and I can do anything I want, and I'm going to get away with it. Yeah. Which then calls into question any Espionage Act case that does not involve
it is unbelievable, right? I mean,
yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah, unless you are caught leaving documents at a dead drop somewhere, or picking up the cash that your handler left for you. Yeah, there are going to be more. Yeah.
So what's it going to take? I mean, are we going to have to find out that he's like a North Korean agent before he's gone?
Well, I think that the only thing that could push him out at this point is if Republican senators begin to turn against him. And they're cowed so far. They're so afraid of Donald Trump and the long arm of Donald Trump that they don't say anything about anything. If they were to finally stand up and say, whoa, wait a minute, this is not how we treat classified information. We have to go down into the vault underneath the Senate to the security office and read classified documents there, or have a classified conversation or classified briefing. We can't just put Signal on our phones and our laptops and then just dump classified information into it. So once those guys start turning, and I'm not talking about Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, I mean MAGA Republicans. Until that happens, I think Hegseth is safe.
But privately, they've got to be pissed.
Oh, they have to be. There have been a couple, like John Kennedy from Louisiana and Roger Wicker from Mississippi. Wicker, I think, is the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee now. I think it's Wicker. They have commented that, wow, this is not acceptable. But nobody else has jumped on that train. And so
someone's out to get him, though. Someone's leaking the Pentagon.
Yeah, you're right. That's an important point. The only reason we know about this stuff is because somebody is leaking it. So is it somebody who works for Hegseth, who may be a civil servant, but is at a senior enough level that they work for Hegseth? Is it somebody at the White House, or is it somebody at the Justice Department who's angry at the way they're being treated over there?
It's someone who knows, and they're still in place, right? Because they have not been caught, because there's that's the worst way, is the drip, drip, drip is what does you in.
That's right.
So
that's exactly right.
I think this is 50-50. I mean, I could see, with everything going on in Ukraine, Trump not wanting to ditch Pete, right now. It would like probably just be inconvenient.
And the Deputy Secretary of Defense is some billionaire that I never heard of, who's supposed to be running the day-to-day operations of the Pentagon. Hegseth is where he is because Trump liked him from Fox News.
Right, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
And he wrote that ridiculous book.
Yes. You know, I'm embarrassed to tell you, I don't even know who the Deputy Secretary of State is. And
I don't either.
I mean, historically, that's been a really important person, a really important career diplomat most of the time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing, right? That's the big story here. And I guess we should talk about Kristi Noem, right?
Oh my God.
So she's the Secretary of Homeland Security, and she's charged with keeping the United States safe from terrorist attacks and all threats, cyber attacks. Homeland Security. It's like the big job. You're keeping us 330 million people safe and healthy. But she can't protect her own purse.
Her purse was stolen from a restaurant in Washington.
It was under her seat.
It was under her seat. The media haven't told us what restaurant it was. I was interested. But get this. It was a Prada bag, which was worth a fortune. She had $3,000 in cash in the bag, as well as her passport, or her badge to get into the Department of Homeland Security.
Oops.
Her driver's license and her car keys. It was everything. Everything was in that purse. So the Secret Service went through the video from the security cameras at the restaurant. And again, they won't tell us what restaurant it was. But all they could tell us was that a white man was seen walking out of the restaurant with the purse. That's it.
Thank God it was a white man.
Yeah, seriously. Otherwise, heads would be rolling.
Or Venezuelan.
Oh, my God.
Not that you can really tell a Venezuelan by looking at them.
But first of all, who keeps $3,000 in cash anywhere, let alone in a purse that's just under your chair?
I'll fess up. I've got about that amount of money in cash. You know where it is? It's in my go bag.
See, that's different. That's different. That's for an emergency. You don't take that $3,000 out to a restaurant and just put it under your chair.
Yeah. Well, but it also kind of sounds like she has her go bag. It's kind of a go bag, right?
Yeah, it's enough for a go bag. Yeah, it's enough for a go bag. Yes. Yes, indeed.
It's
crazy.
So maybe she's planning to. She knows something we don't know. She was like headed to Dulles. I'm out. I'm dipping.
The only thing she didn't lose was her Rolex because it was still on her wrist.
Oh my God. I mean, can you imagine the guy who stole that gets home and opens it up and like it dawns upon him what this is and the badge and who this is. All he has to do is Google it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm. And now the Secret Service is after him.
Yeah. I mean, it's not good.
No.
There's nothing he can do. I mean, he can't even just call and say, listen, can we just forget this whole thing? I'll return it all. Can I drop it off at Metro Police?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. My bad.
He's not going to want to put that Prada bag on eBay.
No. No. Well, $3,000 is a nice haul.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge haul for a purse snatcher.
Now, I know I can hear people saying like, well, you guys are being mean because it's like she's, I mean, this could happen to anybody. Have you guys never been robbed or mugged? It's like Washington's not the safest city. She was in the middle of a business meeting. Can't a lady put her purse and have it stolen?
Yeah.
Without being, viewed as like a dingus. But, and those are fair. I think that's fair stuff to ask.
Yeah.
Right? Although I will say I've only been pickpocketed once in my history in New York City. Oof. And I felt it and I beat the shit out of the guy and I got my wallet back. So the point is, it's only happened to me once. And, so I think I'm more qualified to keep the homeland safe than she is. I mean, maybe if it had been a dog, she could have shot it.
Yeah, as she would have shot it because that's what she does.
She's a dog shooter. As she was bragging.
How many days when we had our shows on Sputnik, how many days were we able to talk about that? Here she is, like first on the list for vice president, and she releases a memoir saying that she had this little puppy and she was training it to be a bird dog, and it just wanted to play around and bark at the ducks that it was supposed to be going to grab. And so she shot it in the head.
Normal. Yeah, I think she was trying to be butch or something. So I mean, far from me to be nostalgic for the Obama administration, but this kind of shit didn't happen. He ran a tight ship. Yeah. He didn't like nonsense, no drama. Obama, his people didn't fuck up like this all the time, or it's really true. Hardly at all. And I mean, it seems to really be a feature with this administration. Do you think Trump cares? I mean, I would care. I would just be like, you're making us look stupid and weak. Like get your shit together. But I mean, is it not important to him? I would think it would be important because it's taking away attention from him and his agenda. Yeah, that is true. If I were Donald Trump, that would make me angry because it takes the spotlight off me. But, as a matter of policy, I think he doesn't really care. I think that he thinks that the intelligence community and federal law enforcement exist only to harass him and his people, not for any other reason. And I think that by ignoring this problem, he's just given the middle finger to the deep state. He doesn't care if what Hegseth is doing is ethically wrong and legally wrong. Yeah, he doesn't care. Yeah, well, I mean, in a weird way, I mean, the Kristi Noem thing is almost worse from Trump's point of view, because it's like, it's a narrative. It fits a narrative. She seems slight and underqualified, and this plays into that narrative. I mean, it wouldn't matter if she was like the U.S. ambassador to Luxembourg, but Homeland Security. I mean, in the center of Washington. Yeah. And she lost her badge. Her access to the building, to the innermost sanctums of the building. I've never lost a passport. No, I've never lost a passport. I never lost a badge. Never. Yeah. And CIA badges, oh my God. It wasn't just the badge, but right after 9/11, they gave us these fobs. And the fobs had a randomly assigned number, a 5-digit number. And every 10 seconds, the number would change to some other random number. Mm-hmm. So when you logged in, you put your username, you put your password, you looked at the fob, you put in the 5-digit number, and then it let you in. Oh, that's kind of like a modern version of the Enigma code. Yeah, kind of. Yes. Right? Yes. Uh-huh. That's very cool. And I'm talking 25 years ago, 24 years ago. I don't even know what it is today. Mm-hmm. But it was hard to get into the building and harder to get into the computer system. And God knows we didn't have signal on it. In fact, at the CIA, we had two phones. Everybody had two phones. You had your outside line and you had your classified line. In the movies, they call it the red phone. They're actually green. Okay. So they had to be at least 6 feet apart because you didn't want any cross-contamination of the waves. Seriously. Right. So, and then of course, cell phones are utterly banned. I mean, you can't even bring them onto the grounds, let alone bring them into the building. And she just had all this crap in her purse. Like, man, I don't get it. I mean, for her own sake, why would she not be more careful? Yeah. It doesn't. And then, of course, also it's interesting that there's nobody watching her, right? She's just at dinner. Well, there's no security guard. Yeah, why was there no security? I mean, there should have been security. When I see cabinet members around town, usually they've got 2 guys with them, just in case. I saw Bill Clinton one time with Chelsea.
There used to be a Barnes and Noble at 14th in Pennsylvania, in the bottom level of the National Press Club. And my brother and I were walking past, and it was just two limos. And he said, "Who do you think this could be?" I said, "Two limos? It's probably like the Secretary of Housing or something like that." And he said, "Oh, can we wait and see who it is? I've never seen anything like this before." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And then Bill Clinton came out because it was a Sunday, and they only had about 6 people.
He had to replace his copy of Leaves of Grass.
Yeah, right. Right. But now, I mean, if you're the Secretary of Housing, nobody cares. But if you're the Secretary of Homeland Security, for goodness sake, where's your security?
Yeah. No, I mean, it really is a good question. And, I mean, it's the kind of thing that, like, it makes you just wonder, okay, so if we are seeing at a remove, Secretary Hegseth and Noem, basically not really having it together. It's like, you've got to assume it's really sloppy in the corridors of power. You've got to assume these are not people who are, really sharp managers and just detail oriented and minding all their P's and Q's. Yeah,
you're exactly right. Getting back to this issue of security too, I just thought of something years ago. I'm going to say this was like 2006, maybe. My wife and I took our son to Tyson's Corner Mall, which is like the big mall in the Washington area, the Virginia suburbs. It was really nice back then. Now it's just, don't waste your time. But back then it was very nice. And up on the top level, the 3rd floor, was a theater complex. It had like 12 screens. And then that's where the food court was. And in the middle of the food court was a kids' play area. So we took our son. He was 2 at the time, or 3. He was 3 at the time. We took him to play in the little slide in the play area. And I noticed there were a couple of guys with earpieces. And I thought, oh, that's kind of funny. I wonder who's here. So I'm looking around, and it was Alberto Gonzalez, the Attorney General, was there playing with his kid in the ball pit. But he had at least 4 bodyguards, whatever they were, Secret Service or DOJ security or whatever they were. There were 4 of them. So it just mystifies me how Kristi Noem can be the secretary of the 2nd largest department in America and one that handles most of the country's security, and have her purse snatched. I just don't get it. Like, was everybody asleep at the switch? Did she not have security? Because they're like, well, we got the videotape. We're examining it. It's a white guy. Subject is hatless. Repeat, hatless. From The Simpsons. But that's not good enough. What were they doing while it was being stolen? I don't understand.
That's the question. I mean, it could have been worse, right? I mean,
yeah. Interestingly, they did not say that she had a gun in that purse, and I would have expected her to.
Really?
Yeah.
In case there were any schnauzers that needed.
Yeah, exactly. Down. She seems like one of those people that would carry a gun just because.
Nancy Reagan did, right? Famously.
Yeah, Nancy Reagan carried a gun, a little teeny tiny chrome-plated .22 that Ronnie gave her, and she kept it in the nightstand.
I wonder what happened if you got shot with a little gun like that. I mean, I'm sure it would hurt, but I mean,
listen,
probably wouldn't make a very big hole.
I'll tell you something. It doesn't make a big hole, but that's not the point. I happen to be sitting on a bench in the prison yard with the boss of the DeCalvacante family. And it also happened to be the day that Whitey Bulger was sentenced to life without parole. And I asked him, if he knew Whitey Bulger. He said, "Oh yeah." He said, "I knew Whitey for 40 years."
Oh, wow.
And I said, this has to be a hard day. You know, it turns out he's a rat. And then he ran away like a child. And he said, "You know what I would do? I'd hit him with a 22. And then I said what you thought. I said, "A 22? That's a lady's gun." And he said, "Yeah, but that's the point. It goes into the skull and it just bounces around in there because it's not big enough to come out the other side. It turns your brain to pudding."
It's worse.
It's worse.
Sometimes a little goes a long way.
I'll never forget that conversation.
That's super interesting. That has applications to all sorts of other things. Yeah. Sometimes you don't need to use a bomb to go after a fly. No, that's interesting. I don't know. So as we face this coming weekend, I'm going to say I think Hegseth's in a little bit of trouble. I'd say he's got a target on his back, and Trump's definitely watching, and I don't think he's liking it. I'm sure he's already regretting it. And my take is he's going to bring in the Ukraine thing agreement in for a landing, try to score that Nobel Prize, but get that done, get the ceasefire in effect. And once that's good into Ukraine, one hitch potentially is the idea of ceasefire monitors from another country. It has been suggested that some of them would be NATO member European troops. That's a non-starter for Russia.
That's right. That is absolutely not going to happen.
Do you want to explain why? I mean, I think it's important for people.
The Russians are sick and tired of having been lied to by NATO and the United States that NATO would not expand to Russia's borders. Now NATO's all over Russia's borders. The Russians launched this attack on Ukraine to keep Ukraine from joining NATO. Now they're this close to victory. And Ukraine's not going to be in NATO. But just as a matter of principle, it will be utterly unacceptable to the Russians to have NATO troops on the ground in Ukraine watching the Russian border. Absolutely not. How much do you want to bet?
Be trusted as they're a participant. They're a party to the conflict.
They're a party to the conflict. That's right.
How can they be neutral? And then also, what if something accidentally happens to them?
That's right.
Then
it's an act of war.
Yeah.
One of them accidentally gets shot. One of them accidentally crosses the border and is arrested. You know, it's just not worth the trouble. How much do you want to bet that it's Fiji that sends the most peacekeeping troops?
Ooh, really?
This is one of the things I learned when I was at the CIA. Fiji is a very poor country. It doesn't have much, a little bit of tourism, a little bit of fruit exports to Australia.
And
that's
really
it.
Selling us that water that's named after them.
Right. and Fiji water. That's right.
I thought it was.
It is. It is.
Oh, is it from Fiji?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's about it. So they make most of their money providing peacekeeping troops for the UN all around the world. They were in Iraq. They were in Afghanistan. It's like everywhere I went, to every shithole country through the entire course of my career, I met Fijian troops.
That's so arcane. It's like sort of like I was talking about this the other day about in Central Asia. I'm sure you know this, that whenever they used to have a lot of border conflicts, and whenever there was a sticky wicky, like between, say, the Uzbeks and the Tajiks, or the Kazakhs and the Uzbeks. Usually the Uzbeks were involved somehow. They're kind of an aggressive people. They would, in the end, they'd be like, well, we'll bring in Kyrgyz negotiators, and everyone they would settle down because the Kyrgyz were considered fair.
They're ferocious
and fair.
Oh, good. Okay.
So people, it's kind of like both sides respect them.
That's cool.
Okay. It's like, all right. We'll go with whatever the Kyrgyz guy says to do.
I'll tell you one other funny story. Now, I'm a little bit embarrassed by it, but when we were pretty much in the midst of the Gulf War, the 1990-91 Gulf War, I was asked to brief the Prime Minister of Fiji, which is the only reason I know this about Fijian troops. So I went up to the briefing room, and he was there with the station chief, but the station chief was black, So I didn't know which one of them was the prime minister of Fiji.
Sure.
So I did the whole briefing like this, like looking at both of them equally, because I didn't want them to think I was
assuming.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then the prime minister got up at the end and said thank you and shook my hand.
Now, did the prime minister, I mean, do Fijians have an accent?
They do, but when I went there, the liaison officer just said, "This is John Kiriakou. He's going to provide you a briefing on X, Y, and Z." And they just both nodded. Then nobody said anything. And I was like, "Oh, crap. I don't know which one's the prime minister."
It's like baseball. You can't tell the players without a program.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
So, wow. No, that's funny. So, yeah, so I get, and I would imagine that basically Russia will get their way on this issue. I mean,
yeah, I think so too.
It should be, get the Fijians, whatever, get people from wherever. It doesn't matter. Senegal, just get them from somewhere and just do it.
Ted, one of our viewers is asking if we have any comments on the Kashmir attack.
Oh, right.
Yeah, this is a very big deal, and the quick result has been that India and Pakistan have cut off trade ties. So the border is sealed. There's no trade as of today. This was an odd attack. It was a group of Pakistani tourists who were on the Indian side of the border in Kashmir. They were on an organized pony ride. And when they got back to the corral or whatever it is where they keep the ponies, armed gunmen came out of the woods. They had been hiding in the woods. They came out of the woods and just opened fire on the tourists. I haven't seen the latest death numbers, but it was pretty serious.
It was high.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the attack at the Temple of Luxor in Egypt.
Oh, yeah. Those were Greek tourists. And they killed like 33 of them or 36 of them or something like that. Yeah.
It's murky and unclear for sure. And Kashmir, it's one of those, it's talk about a conflict that's just never been resolved. I mean, there's been 3 hot wars fought over this. And then between India and Pakistan. That's not even counting between China and Pakistan.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. India. Oh no, China and India.
And recently, right? Like maybe a year ago, there was
recently. There was a big skirmish in the 70s, and then it was generally okay until a year ago, and then they went at it again.
Yeah, it's just sort of what they do. Yeah, I mean, the problem is I don't have a lot. I found it shocking, but I don't have a lot of insight because we don't really understand the motivations, and there hasn't been a clear claim of responsibility. And what's always interested me, John, is that Kashmir, as we always call it Kashmir, but it's effectively historic Kashmir is divided between India and Pakistan.
Yes.
Right. In Pakistan, it was for a long time called like the northern areas.
That's right. The Northern Territory, something like that. Yeah.
And then there was a dotted line, if you look at the map, called the line of control. That's right. Every now and then there's shelling across the line of control. There's a fighting season that corresponds with the warmer weather, and it ebbs and it flows. But most of the really big attacks tend to happen on the Indian side of the border.
Because it's Pakistani groups attacking the Indians.
Yeah,
that's what makes this so unusual.
Because Kashmir is majority Muslim. Yeah, and these groups want to reunify Kashmir. Right, the history of it is that during the partition in 1947 between India and Pakistan, all the Maharajas were basically given their territory. The Maharaja of Kashmir was a Hindu dude, but his people were Muslim. So they all ended up on the wrong side of the border, and they've been pissed off ever since.
Right. They came to an agreement. They came to a peace agreement back in the 70s. And then the Indians reneged on it, which is why the Pakistanis are so quick to use violence, because they feel so deeply wronged. But the Indians control
temperament, John. I mean, Pakistanis are ready to blow anytime.
They
I mean,
are.
when you spend time there, I mean, I just got used to it where you just be hanging out at someone's house or at a cafe or whatever, and then suddenly like someone come in and yell something in Urdu, and everyone's like gets sticks and runs out to the street ready to riot. And I'd be like, what's going on? Oh, like so-and-so from such and such party insulted the prime minister. We're going to go fuck up their people and burn down their office.
That's exactly what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're high-strung people.
Getting elected president or prime minister of Pakistan is like a death sentence.
It's true. Yeah, if you're lucky, you come out of it just being tortured.
Yeah,
like the guy that Musharraf overthrew
and charged with treason. Yeah.
Why this is a terrible job. Why would you want this job?
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, no, it's really funny. I went on a trip where I was in Pakistan for a few weeks. And then I guess like 3 weeks, and then I went to India afterwards, and I crossed the border east of Lahore, which is a famous border crossing. I'm sure you're very familiar with this, where they have this very of amazing,
very elaborate.
Yeah, they have this.
I took video of it when I was there.
This military ceremony where both sides are dressed to the nines in these uniforms that are kind of evocative of the British Raj with the feathers and everything, and they're all trying to outdo each other. And there's bleachers, right, where the Indians
on both sides
of the border,
and there's a painted line down the center. That's the border.
So I crossed that border at a very boring time. It was nothing.
I went up to watch the show.
So it was 12 noon on a blazing hot day in the summer, and like it was just basically me and my backpack. And so they escorted me the Pakistanis escorted me to the yellow line. His Indian counterpart came over to receive me, and so I crossed over, and he's like, follow me. And the Indian guy just said, it is too cold today. And I realized it was the first joke I had heard in 3 weeks. It's like, because Pakistanis don't joke.
No,
I mean, they're very, very serious people.
Yeah, they are. That's absolutely true.
Indians like to joke.
Yeah, Pakistanis don't.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny that they were all part of the same country, and they're so different.
Yeah, they really are.
And Indian Muslims aren't like that.
No.
They're more chill.
Yeah, something happened when the Brits drew that border. It changed everybody.
British cartographers, man, they caused all the problems in the world. Biggest assholes. Well, John, I think that's do we have any other anything else to address?
I'm done.
I think we're
done for the day.
All right. I have some work to do too. So I was going to say I'm going to nap, but I can't. But anyway, it's always a pleasure. Thanks everybody for watching. We will be back next week, and we'll let you know our schedule. Just watch us on our social media platforms. We'll let you know what's going on. I'm at Ted Rall at Twitter. John Kiriakou is at John Kiriakou. It's simple. You can't go wrong. Please buy my book quickly. What's left?
Yay!
Never mind the Democrats is the key part. If this is for the left that is not part of the Democratic Party or shouldn't be part of the Democratic Party.
Good for you.
And that's it. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.